Okay guys, well, you saw my last little video with my little screw up, and I've intentionally left this as a little teaser into the beginning of this little video here. A few days later, you've seen my screw up on my wing skin. Now, what I could have done where that cut was reversed is I could have just gone back to that first rib, and we could have spliced that there. Since the other wing's already done, and it doesn't have that fancy little splice, so it wouldn't match, or that would have shown up as a repair, I've chosen just to redo that skin. So in my fancy little box here, we've got another sheet of 16 thousandths, I believe it is. I know that's what it is. And we're going to go through, and all the layout on this skin, all these initial rivet holes and everything are fine. So I'm going to use this as a pattern rather than starting out from scratch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a full sheet here, I'm going to roll it out onto my little table outside, we're going to cut it to width, and once we've got it to width, why then we're just going to clamp the two pieces together, and I'm going to use this as a template. We're just going to drill through our pilot holes, we're going to cut off our dimensions here for our cutouts on the ends of the wing, and this one now we're going to leave this one like we should have done on the original skin here. I'm going to leave that outboard end long, and we're not going to cut that at all. We'll fit it to the skin, and then we'll go and cut that angle so we don't do the same stupid mistake or even cut it shorter or anything like that. With this skin laid on here, all of my layout marks and everything come out just right. I'm really happy with the placement of all the holes, and we're just going to transfer all of the markings and all of our holes onto this another sheet of aluminum. I'm not going to show that on camera. It's pretty much self-explanatory. Like I say, I'm going to lay this one out, cut it to width, set this one on top, do my layout marks, I'm going to clamp them together, and then we're just going to go ahead and drill all these pilot holes. Then we'll be back to the same position that we are with this sheet, except it will be long on the outboard end, like I say, and then we'll go back and trim it up. We'll probably go back and start showing the proper cutouts and everything when we get that far with layout. But like I say, I know this is right now. I'm happy with this sheet except for that outboard end. So that's where we're at. We'll come back in a little bit. That's part of the joys of plans building or scratch building, is you will occasionally run into stuff like this. Part of the problem with this is I haven't been working on this on a steady basis to where I'm having to stop and think, and I thought wrong on this one, and I was trying to hurry along, so we cut that end wrong. Okay guys, well, hopefully the audio's not too bad because I've got the air conditioner running in the background, but that's the way it is. So, got the new skin drilled, installed, it's clecoed in place. All of these holes are drilled. Next thing I'm going to do is pull the skin back off, and we've got smaller clecos in here. 3/32 clecos. They'll eventually get opened up to rivet size, but we won't do that until after we've got the nose skin fitted and the trailing edge fitted. Next thing is going to be pull the skin back off, just verify hole placement, although it's too late to change anything now, and I was careful when I did it. We moved any ribs we needed to, so we centered up our lines. We have two rear fuel tank supports, or fuel tank ribs in the back, and I'm going to pull them. I'm going to pull the skin off and just look things over, make sure everything's as it should be, and then we'll go ahead and lay out for those holes on this skin. Now I will take these back out to the table to initially drill them, but I'll use the holes I've got here as reference holes as to where I want my center line. I could take we could measure under the skin and all that stuff, but now we've got these holes in place, our pilot holes, so it's just as easy to measure off of those spacements for where that rib intersects, and we'll lay them out on there. So that's where we're at. We'll, it's all kind of repetitious stuff, but we're going to pull it off, look it over, and we'll come back in a bit. Well, we're back to a little farther than we should have been before our little screw up here. Now, don't pay any attention. You're going to see a little bit of waves in this wing, a little bit of oil canning and stuff. The wing is no longer level on the bench. It was when I fitted it up, and we've got a nice layout on anything. Any inconsistencies in it will work themselves out when we drill these out to 1/8 inch. So, got flap brackets mounted, and of course made a jig. Now, I'm only going to touch on the things that maybe I would do differently if I was doing it again. This is my flat bracket mounting jig. The way they show it in the plans, they show one piece of leftover angle iron that you've got and the plate. I put 2 on mine. Don't do that, only use 1. It makes it a little bit easier to slide it underneath. It doesn't interfere with your clecos on the top side of the wing when you've got it slid in like this. So otherwise you have to remove extra clecos along the side. So don't do that, only use 1 piece of angle. So anyway, like I say, I'm just touching on things that come to mind. The other things to be aware of are which side your flapper-on brackets mount on, and this tells you in the plans, but unless you're really paying attention, it can be a little bit confusing. Now, I didn't mess up on these, but I double-checked these about 5 times and double-checked them against the other wing. So what I'm going to do now, part of the reason that we're seeing oil canning too is I've used virtually every cleco, every 3/32 cleco that I've got. If I had my druthers, I'd have at least another 100 to go in, because I've got these clecos in the trailing edge of the other wing. So if I didn't have them done, if I had that wing completely done and the top affixed down, why I'd have those extra clecos, which I don't know how many's there. There's probably 50 or 75. Anyway, we'll make do with what we've got. My plan is now, and everything lays out the way I wanted. I'm pretty happy with it. What I'm going to do now is I've got the other wing rolled out and I've got a set of sawhorses out there, and I'm not going to show all of this, but I'll explain what I'm going to do and then we'll come back in and watch parts of it. I'm going to take the whole wing out and put it on the sawhorses because I'm ready to trim the wingtip end both on the bottom and on the top, and I want to look at them out and be able to really take measurements and study them. I've already laid out the bottom. It's a straight cut. We've only got the dimension on the trailing edge where it mounts against this spar, and then on the front edge, on the leading edge where it ends, and that's just a straight cut. But I still want to look at it, make sure it's right, and I'm going to compare it to the other wing, because at this stage of the game, I'm very comfortable with the way the other wing is. This one I want to match, even if there's some variations from the plans, which there's really not. I did find one thing that I had different on them, and it's on the angles, the L angles that goes on both sides of the flapper-on brackets and mounts into the trailing edge and into the ribs. Why I've got 5 rivets on each of those instead of 4, which is what the plans call for. But other than that, everything's to the plans, but I'm still going to match them exactly. So any variation, all of hopefully at least reduced by measuring top skin overall length and bottom skin overall length and trailing edge against the wing that's already done. That way they're matched no matter what. So anyway, I'm going to take it out, clean up my workbench here, and then I'll pull it apart. I want to look at edge distances on flapper-on brackets and DL angles going in and things like that, just along the trailing edge. Want to double check all those, which at this stage of the game, what they are is what they are, but we'll look those over again anyway. I'll bring the bottom sheet back in, then I'm going to disassemble it, bring the bottom sheet back in, and we'll trim the bottom edge. And then I'll probably flip the wing over out there after I get that done and trim the top skin on the wingtip end. So that's kind of where we're at. Otherwise, everything's back to normal. I will say, since I've laid off of this project for a while, I had completely lost track of where I was. And I'd lost that groove of knowing what was going on. On these projects like this, you need to be doing something all the time. Every day is great, but even if you 2-3 times a week, you can at least stay in sync with what's going on, and you've kind of got that mindset. Where I've laid off for a while, I had to really go back and study things, and I still made mistakes like this previous bottom wing skin that I screwed up for this. So mistakes like that, they take extra time, and it costs a fair amount of money when you do screw ups like that. So just stay on these projects, do a little bit of something, even if you're sitting looking at your plans. Why that'll keep you going. Once I get it reassembled out there, bring it back in, we'll re-level it and everything, and then I can go ahead and put on the spar mount or the strut mounts, through here. We've got a couple other places that we have to penetrate the lower skin for mounting and things like that. So once we've got it spun around and done that way, then we can go ahead and do that. Then we'll go ahead and start working on our nose skin, and once we get that fitted, then we can go ahead and do our wingtip. Now, all of this stuff for this skin and the bottom, everything will have to be deburred. I'll still do a little bit of clearancing on the cuts on this trailing edge against the flapper-on mounts and this rear strut mount, just to get a little more clearance, get everything to lay down a little bit nicer and set down and then we'll be ready to do that other wingtip. Then basically both of the wings are to the same place of being done. We can go ahead and start working on internals on the wings, fuel tanks, things like that, wiring, whatever else we're doing there. The only other major component that I still have to do, I believe, is we have to do the flaperons themselves. And the flaperons for me have been kind of a toughie too. I've done starts on them 2 times, I think, and failed both times. So that's been a little bit of a costly mistake too, but that's part of the joys of scratch building. Anyway, that's where we're at. So I'm going to go ahead and move everything around and get this out, and we'll go from there. Okay, here's our wing. This is the way it was set on the table originally, or this is the lower skin. Exactly the way it was, except it was slid down. I've got it rolled up just for the video for you guys here. So our 00 mark on this, or what we're using as 00, is this. It's the center of this rib, which is number 6, I believe. I'm sure it's number 6. Yeah. And this would be our main spar going through here. Our nose rib will go on over the top. And this is the trailing edge here. So layout for this is 370 from the center line of this. And we're going, this rib we want center line, and then the center line of the spar, rivet line, will be there. So from the front over, we're going 300. 300, 300, 300. And we'll burn 10, so we go, so that'll be the top. And then we're 370 on the bottom. Burn 10 is going to give us 470 right there. And this is just a straight line on the bottom. So that's how you lay them out. When I do the top section, I think I was just going to do it out there, but the sun's come out a little bit, even though we got wind blowing, and on that aluminum it's just hot as hell. So I'm probably going to, before I even put this skin back on, I'm going to bring the wing back in, flip it over without the bottom skin on it, just set it on the table so that I can go ahead and do that. Now before I cut this, I am going to walk out and just verify it against the other wing. And that one is spot on, so we'll just go ahead and trim this edge. We'll do the trusty Olfa. Okay, now we have the one cut the right way. So we'll put that piece in our scrap pile. We'll have to deburr that edge, which I could go ahead and do right now, I suppose. Just move our little clamps over here so we've got a little more. we go. Okay, so rather than put this back on right now, I'm just going to roll it up and set it aside along with the trailing edges. I'm going to turn around that wing, bring it back in and set it down so we can trim the top edge of it. Here's our wingtip. We're looking at the top of the wing here. This will be our wingtip. Leading edge is going to be to the top of the screen, I guess, and trailing edge is back here. Do the same thing as we did on the lower skin, except it's not a straight shot. It's a curved piece, and it operates exactly the same. I've got to upgrade my markers again. I've let everything kind of dry out, and we've gotten to where all I've got is blue markers. Normally, I like to mark everything in blue. Blue normally lasts longer than black. That's always been what we've learned anyway over the years. And so I use blue to mark all my lines. Normally, I've got maybe a red and a black just to highlight stuff, and it'd be nice here. I've got a heavier blue. So anyway, this is our 00 up here. Right there is 00. And our y-axis is this way, and our x-axis is, no, that's not right. We're after our z-axis is what we've got here. So our z-axis goes front to back. We don't use our x-axis on this. X-axis will be forward of this front spar. So that's the layout of it. And the way we lay them out, we start off with 00, but they're all our z-axis. It's measured off in 100 millimeter increments. So what I'm going to do is we're going to do one of these just like this. I'm on the wrong side, of course. Let's see if I can stand up here and act stupid and get things marked out. So we're going to lay out a grid. So if we start at 00, we go 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600. Let's double check that, make sure we're in line. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and I don't know that we need to go to 8, but we will anyway. And let's do the same thing out here on the leading edge. 0 is our spar line. 100, 200, 300, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And now I think I'm going to go to a fine marker, and then we'll actually do the layout in a heavier marker. And see, all we're going to do is make us a grid. Okay. Now for our, from 00, we want to come out 505. And I still can't reach them from here. And at 100 and 200, we're still 505. Now this is going to be a smooth curve all the way back around. We got 0, 1, 2, 300 is 495. $400 is 480. Rear channel is 415. And that's what we're going to as the rear channel rather than and that's where our rear channel should end. Is that actually right? You get a tape measure and double check that. Double check that. I can live with that. And then trailing edge should be 385. So we're going to say that's right. Couple of ways to do that too. I could do that with a Gumby, but I wonder screwing around and stiffen this up a little bit. Not sure if this is a piece of leftover Z channel or how about that? Try that again. There we go. I like that. Let's just go out here a little bit wide on all of this. perfect, or as perfect as it needs to be for his hair. Yeah, that appears to be quite a bit long. Oh, I guess not. A little bit long. Little bit. I can live with that. Get that marker off of there and see what it looks like. Yeah, that's a nice smooth transition. I like that. We can get rid of all these other marks here that are in our way. I'm sure this is what you wanted to do, was look over my shoulder and see me wash off Sharpie marks. Anyway, that's a nice smooth transition. I like that. That will be a nice wingtip. We'll match everything else to fit it. Okay. We'll smooth everything and final deburr it when we get ready to rivet the things together. Yeah, that's a nice transition there. Okay, so now I think we're ready to flip it back over. Cleco the back end, the bottom side back on. Check dimensions there, do a few other little fitting things to it as we go together. And then we'll flip it over, level it on the bench with the nose out this way.